Bobby Z and Morris Hayes, kind enough to join us for one more segment. We're talking Prince. We're talking about the new musical, which premieres tomorrow officially, and a couple of other things as well. You know, I don't know if either of you are familiar with Pat Kessler. Kessler was a legendary political reporter in town on Channel 4 for decades. He's kind of retired now, so he bugs us. We have him on. We throw him a bone because I think he's bored. He doesn't have much to do. And anytime anybody talks about any Super Bowl halftime show, even some the last few years, and somebody says, that was, you know what, that was pretty damn good. Immediately on X, the comeback from Kessler is, it might have been good, but it still doesn't touch Prince 2007 halftime show. It's like it's this automatic itch that he has to scratch. And Morris, you were there, I think, for that one, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
As it's happening, does it in real time feel as magical as people view it looking back after, with the amount of time, the distance of time? Did it feel like you were part of something pretty damn good then, or not so much?
You knew that you were in the history. Like, it was like Prince knew it, we knew it. It was crazy because it was Miami and it was outside, and the storm was coming up the coast. And so, on Friday, you shoot the thing in full dress rehearsal. You shoot it like you're going to look like for Super Bowl Sunday, just in case there's a glitch, anything. So we did this whole thing. They filmed it. They told us, like, if the storm comes up and it's too tough, we're going to run this. If people in the audience are going to see the video, the people at home will see this, we're going to superimpose some lightning. So they tell him, like, well, Prince, it looks like the weather's bad and it's going to rain on you. He said, can you make it rain harder? and it's like, I'm sitting there going, like, well, don't electrocute him. Don't let him arc on the microphone and get him barbecued. I'm like going through the whole thing.
Sure.
And in the NFL, man, if I can tell you anything, these jokers had a contingency plan for the contingency plan. Every T was crossed. Every I was dotted. They had technology working I'd never seen before. And they made sure that everything that could be done was done. And so it was something to see him get up there, man, in the weather. Most of us almost slipped and fell down, and I almost fell. But, it was such an iconic moment, because I think that the thing that makes it such a iconic performance is when we were putting that together, Prince was like, well, I don't want to go up there and do just a bunch of my songs. We did some, Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah,
we did all of these things all along the Watchtower and the Foo Fighters, all of the things that we liked. And because I think Prince looked at the Super Bowl like a thing that everybody from all different walks of life and all musical taste like. And I think that's where we win a lot of times in these polls, is because that was a Super Bowl show that everybody could take away something from. It wasn't about, like, this is going to be straight hip-hop, it's going to be straight country, or straight whatever. You got a whole contingent of people that are into different things, and I think he thought about the balance of that in making a great show, rather than to showcase all of his songs all night. And I think that's what makes the difference in that. And not to mention that he's just Prince, and he just does what he does, and he's a clutch guy. He's like Michael Jordan. He made a reference to Michael Jordan. That was his favorite guy. Because he was such a clutch guy, and that's Prince. He's just like, rain, shine, whatever. He's gonna win. That's
I don't know. I keep reading that the unpublished material, the treasure trove is endless. In fact, there's so much of it. It's the challenge of going through it and what to release and what not to release. So I don't know if this is in there. My regret, because I just thought he was so versatile and such a craftsman, is I would have loved him to do a million soul and funk songs that I grew up with that I don't know that he ever played, because I just know he could have pulled all that off. It would have been interesting to hear him interpret some of those songs. There's some people you don't want him to touch those things, right? They're sacred. But that's always been my one regret. I would have loved to hear, because it just didn't seem like there was any style, quite frankly, that he couldn't do.
Right. Yeah, and, he did, at the end, during the concerts, he turned those into some
That's true.
covers, and a lot of fun bringing people up.
Yeah.
I saw an audience guy play that funky music.
Yes.
And, so he definitely was a student of music, and he loved all that R&B you're talking about. And we would play a lot of that in rehearsal. There would always be, songs that he would admire and interpret. But you're right. I mean, there just I don't think there was an artist since Prince that, whether it's the metal guys like him, the polka guys like him, the country people love him, the R&B people love him, and the rock people love him. There's just something about his crossover ability that everybody knew the musicianship was spectacular.
Exactly.
But the songwriting was as good as it can be.
He respected music, right? For all his own styles, that's what came across to me is he was not dismissive of other forms of music at all.
Absolutely.
That was a big deal for Prince. I have in my cell phone, man, at least 250 to 300 artists that are like Paul McCartney, like from everybody that would just make it their business to always come to Prince and just say, whatever it was. Prince was an artist, and they all loved him and just had the utmost respect. Elton John, they did the Long and Winding Road, and Paul McCartney came over and asked Prince for the song. And it's just I was like, man, this is bananas. But they all loved him and respect him. Steve Vai gave me a guitar to give to Prince. Wow. And then did this whole thing where it's it just was that sort of a thing for him.
Let me get to a text here regarding the Stones concert. Jim writes, Dan, I was living in L.A. at the time. That Stones concert was at the Coliseum show where Prince was treated so badly. It was all that and then some. I remember Prince dodging what I think was a Jack Daniels bottle thrown at him. Lots of beer, lots of garbage, too. I always thought that fell on Mick Jagger's shoulders. I was 20 at the time and remember thinking that when that tour was announced, how bad of a fit Prince might be for an opening act. Then Prince shows up on stage wearing what looks like a thong and singing about, what a very young Prince sang a lot about was just a bad scene altogether that day. Is that a pretty apt description?
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, Mick and Keith loved that album, Dirty Mind. And in a way, they kind of helped promote it in a big way. When it wasn't really connecting. It was connecting in Europe more, and we went over there. But, it was, we went on at 2:00. And the Stones went on at 7:00. So, I mean, there was Prince, there was George Thorogood and the Destroyers, and there was Jay Giles, and then the Stones. So you've got all, at 2:00 in the afternoon, people have been there since dawn, and they hear the roar of the music starting, and they want the Stones. They don't want.
Yes, right.
And he was in a trench coat.
Yes.
And his, bikini briefs, and he's spinning around in a high falsetto voice, and it just didn't connect at the time. But it's interesting that Lisa Coleman, the keyboard player in the Revolution, had a comment right after that, he's going to have to win these people over in order to achieve what he wanted to do. And then I didn't hear from him for about 2 weeks, and then went to his house, and then I hear 1999. So he's giving that over here to R&B, and then he's got Corvette for the rockers. So he's figuring it out in real time, and he's saying, "Well, I'll just please everybody."
Did he take it hard on that occasion? Did he then, as it's taken place, was it rough for him?
Yeah, because there was 2 shows, so it was a Rams game, so they tore this all down, played a Rams game, and then set it all back up. Yeah. So he went back to Minneapolis, and Jagger and Dez, they got him to come back, and the tension in that dressing room before the second show was probably the most tense I've ever seen him in my life. It was, there was nothing to say.
You could feel it.
There was nothing to say, and they came with stuff to throw the second show.
Oh, my God.
I read about it, and then they brought this stuff, I'm bringing stuff for the opening act. I'm bringing tomatoes for the jester.
Oh, my God.
And it was a bloodbath, the second show, but he at least he toughed it out a little. I think we got 3 songs in.
That's crazy.
But it was definitely wild.
One of the things he did say, though, and he told me this not only about Mick Jagger, but Rick James as well. He said he was very grateful to Mick for allowing him, because it was a thing. They took a chance as well, like having these guys. And he always remained grateful about the opportunities that he got in that regard, because both him and Rick James gave him an opportunity to be in front of their audiences. And so he was always grateful about that. And I appreciate that about Prince, because he said, yeah, it was tough. And they threw chicken and everything else at us. But he said, but they gave us a shot,
But the Jack Daniels bottle was real.
That's legit.
His head
confirmed.
Went down. Yeah, that just shattered right on the drummer.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
I was playing hockey goalie with the cymbals. So at least I had those.
You got something going for you there, yeah. Never moved so quick to your left or right in your life, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Let's bring it full circle as we wrap up. Tomorrow is the big official media opening. of the new musical. And again, we should remind folks, this is a biography of the kid. It's from Purple Rain, basically. It's more that story than people may be thinking it's going to be. It's going to be a Prince biography. For both of you now, real quick, tell me, because of your own influence in this thing, your own involvement in it, what do you think people should be paying attention to here? What do you think the goal was in attempting to bring that iconic movie to the stage? Bobby, we'll start with you.
I think the goal, again, was the music. I think bringing this music forward to the next generation and telling a story of the kid and Apollonia and Morris, this love triangle, set in song and set in Minneapolis and set at First Avenue is kind of an iconic moment in rock and roll history. I mean, I grew up, there was like Hard Day's Night and Help, and Quadrophenia was a big part. Prince and I watched Quadrophenia quite a bit, which gave him the mods and the rockers and the kind of the West Side Story thing. And I think that all translates to this day. And I think that bringing his music forward and bringing these talented people, as we've said earlier, putting this together with all this effort is bringing this back to life in a way that only live theater can do.
Morris, what do you think?
I agree. I think that at the end of the day, Prince was all about the music, man. I don't care what else, the fashion and this, that, and the other. It always equated to music. Purple Rain is an iconic film, and it was an iconic album. And I think for the fact that they're putting this out there and people can get reacquainted with this amazing story and this amazing film, I think, especially starting it here in Minneapolis, at his hometown, man, I think it's just special.
Outstanding. I'm reminded, by the way, regarding his ability, Prince's ability to do other people's music. We've even, I think, may have played it over the years. Was it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame event where ended up stealing pretty much everybody's show at the While My Guitar Gently Weeps solo. I mean, I could still watch that tomorrow. I mean, I there's not enough times that I'll never get tired of that particular
a lot of
performance.
That, they left him off the top guitarist list, Rolling Stone, and the head of Rolling Stone was sitting there. So typical Prince, right?
Bulletin board material for him, right?
Yeah.
As we say in the sports world, there it was, right?
Yeah,
let me show you.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And he should, but as Morris said about the Super Bowl and this guitar solo, that was like a Tuesday for me. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, every day this magician would pull off this ability, and we witnessed it, and it's still remarkable in hindsight that it happened.
Yeah. And it's funny, too, because I was standing in my yard. Prince had built the house for me across the street from his, and he saw me in the yard, and he almost crashed it, and then he just whipped around and came over to me. I went to the house. This is right during this whole thing. I was playing with Maceo, and he was doing his thing. But he told me, I told him, Prince, I saw the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. I said, I think that's one of the best solos you've ever done. I've seen you do a lot. And he said, you know what I did? And I said, what did you do? He said, well, in rehearsal, I just went half gas on him. I didn't step on the gas until the show. And then he said, you should look at his face when I fall back in the crowd. Tom Petty was looking kind of different. And I said, I got to go back and look at it. And man, when I went back and saw it, just like that face, Tom was like, why you little?
Exactly right.
It was so funny, but it's an iconic piece.
Ah, tremendous. You guys are great. This is a great conversation. Best of luck with the show. I hope it goes exactly where you want it to go, as well as you do. I'm looking forward to watching it tomorrow night, and hopefully we can chat every once in a while. This is a great conversation. Thanks for giving us as much time as you did. Appreciate you. Let's get a break in. Do you want to do a quick bonus bucks, Brett Blakemore, and then we can pause?
Yeah, let's do it. The Fan of 2 Men and a junk truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks to the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com, keyword money for this hour. Keyword money, KFAN.com, keyword money.
Kevin Seifert to talk Purple. That's next.
If you want to chime in what's happening with your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Let us know what you to say by texting that message to 64686. It's 64686, standard text message and data rate supply.
Well, good luck following that, Kevin Seifert. I mean,
I got no shot.
We love having you on the show. I think, the reason you have no shot is exactly that it's not football. That because we get endless this time of year, obviously, it's endless football. And so when two guests come in and they're talking about something else, in of itself, regardless of how rich the material is, they already have the advantage.
Well, it's the old thing about the man in the arena. Those were two guys who were in the arena, literally, with Prince, and the rest of us are just kind of the people off to the side.
You were there to the 2007 that Super Bowl,
yeah.
And you've told this story before, the Sid Prince moment, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Sid really wanted to meet Prince. Somebody told him there was a local angle to the halftime show, and so I'll make it short, but he basically asked Bob Hagan, who at the time was the Vikings PR director and was helping out at the Super Bowl, to arrange it. And Bob tried to tell him that this is not like getting an interview with Randy Moss or Dante Culpepper or Chris Carter. Like, this is like, this guy doesn't do interviews, and I'm not, his PR. And he's like, oh, just get me in there. I'll talk to him. And, Sid had never even met him before, and so it probably just didn't know like the type of person that Prince was. And so Bob talked their way through like 3 levels of security, and they got to the on the day that Prince was going to do his press conference at the Super Bowl, which turned out to be a mini concert, which is another story. But they went back into the hallway, walking towards the green room, and here comes Prince and his entourage, and Bob Hagan says to Sid, "Hey Sid, that's Prince. That's your guy." He goes, "Is that him?" Yeah, that's him. And he goes, "Okay." And so he did what he always does, and he tried to flag him down. He's like, "Hey, Prince. Hey, Sid Hartman, Prince." And then I guess the whole, there was always people, and it was kind of chaotic, but everybody was silent, and they all turned around to see who this person was who would have the audacity to try to flag Prince down on his way out of the green room. And Sid looked at Prince, and Prince looked at Sid, and then I guess Prince apparently said, "Oh, hi, Mr. Hartman, how are you?" And they had like a 4 or 5 minute conversation talking about T-Wolves basketball and whatever else. And so persistence works in our business and probably every other.
That's for sure. A lot of texts already coming in. If you have questions for Seifert or comments about the Purple or Purple Rain, either one, Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is 64686. We did not make any trades. You can confirm that? The Vikings before the deadline?
Confirmed.
Are we disappointed? Was there anything we might have been sniffing?
I know some people were hoping for a cornerback.
Yes.
Sauce Gardner for 2 first-round picks was probably not in their wheelhouse, nor should it have been. They are basically playing a type of defense where they're really only using 2 cornerbacks for the most part, and the third comes in like third of the time or something. And so they're using their safeties and their linebackers more than cornerbacks. And so some people thought that meant that they could use another one, and you can never have too many, I suppose. Running back was another thing that I think people were hoping, if the Jets were selling everybody, that they would sell Breece Hall to the Vikings. And with Aaron Jones having gone through some injury situations earlier, and now with the shoulder, I could see where people would think that. But, at some point you got to just say, you've got a $350 million payroll as it is. Like, let's push forward with that. And as Kevin O'Connell said yesterday, in some ways, because if you look at the history, they've basically gone out and traded for injury replacements each year. Even if you think about the TJ Hawkinson trade in 2022, it was sort of because of Irv Smith not being available. And so, they got 4 or 5 players back from injury on Sunday. Both the tackles,
like new acquisitions.
Yeah, it's almost like new, fresh blood in that regard. And CJ Ham, I think, they're hoping will be back this week. Everybody who came back on Sunday, checked out fine afterwards. Ryan Kelly, the center who's on IR, is going to start a very slow process of working his way back. He's going to do some work on a side field this week. He's not imminent, but it hasn't been given up that he's not going to return this year, so we'll see where that goes. And I think that's kind of where they sat. I'm sure they had talks. I know they had talks, but I don't think that they felt that there was an urgency at any one position to really go after.
Should we be bitter or concerned that I believe our opponent Sunday made an acquisition for an edge rusher, Draymond Jones? Is that big? Is that medium? Is that what do we make of that? Because I assume he'd be available.
You're talking about the Ravens, yeah.
What did I say?
Yeah, no, yeah. Ravens, that's who they're playing this week. Yeah, no, I mean, a little bit. I think, to me, like the big story with the Ravens is once they got Lamar Jackson back, that they're they're a lot closer to the team that people thought they were going to be when the season began, and their 1-5 start was really one of the more shocking turns of events in the early part of the season. And so, whether they made a trade or not, I really think that's, they were already a pretty formidable opponent, and certainly not one to look past, even though they're an AFC team.
Again, questions for Seifert, let us know. I don't want to spend the whole time on the Lions game, but it's not that far in the rearview mirror. This is, after all, only Tuesday. So you, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be fairly one-sided. What's at the top of the Kevin Seifert gobsmacked list regarding that game?
Frankly, defensively, every time the Lions had played the Vikings and Brian Flores, they'd scored at least 30 points. And not only did they have trouble often with the run, but Jared Goff just was smoking them. He was completing 80% of his passes and over 1,000 yards in those 4 games, and his QBR was in the 80s. And so they had not had and then they'd had a lot of trouble stopping the run this season, and had played their worst 2 games of the season as a defense in those against Philly and Chargers leading into it. And so, I was having a hard time figuring out, where the oomph was going to come from. How are they going to slow down? Assuming that the Vikings offense was not going to be explosive enough to win a 40-point game, and I don't think they would have been, but they really had some good ideas, and the Lions were very slow to adjust. But they, really from the start, I think it was, obviously that first possession, the Lions went down the field, and that didn't look too good. But starting with the second possession, they got a 3-and-out. There was a play, I think, where both linebackers, Cashman and Ivan Pace, blitzed, and they kind of did some twists and some games, and then the defensive tackle, Levi Drake Rodriguez, got involved, and they just all 3 overpowered the people the Lions had. And I couldn't remember many times when I had seen that happen by the Vikings defense in the past 2 years against the Lions. When I saw that, I was like, well, we'll see if they can sustain it. But that's in itself was really interesting. And they just kept doing that. I think their inside linebackers had 10 or 11 pressures. Jahmyr Gibbs was way overpowered, and a lot of people have already talked about that. But it was a weakness they identified and they exploited, and the Lions were very slow to adjust to. And the adjustment was to take him off the field, which you don't want to do because he's a really good running back. But when he was out there, they were blitzing him and keeping him from getting into the space. So that's what I was gobsmacked by, that they, even though they gave up a bunch of points, or not a bunch, but they gave up, 24, whatever it was. And I think if the Lions had gotten the ball back, they might have given up some more. But the point is, I did not see that coming from the defense, and that's what they needed. And we've been talking about this. That's where the oomph was going to have to come from this team as they develop the quarterback on the other side.
Well, so we know that historically the Vikings and B-Flow have blitzed Goff a lot, and he's tended to dice it up.
Yeah. So everybody who blitzes him gets
killed. What was different? Was it the form of blitzing? Was it an X's and O's adjustment, or was it just players played better?
There was a physical advantage that they exploited, not just with Gibbs, but the Lions. Frank Ragnow retired, and their guard. There's been some injuries, and their interior offensive line is not nearly as strong as it has been in the past, and so the pressure was coming right up the middle, which is a little bit more difficult for any quarterback. That's always the preference, is straight up the middle. And then if you get him off his spots, like a lot of quarterbacks, he's going to be less accurate. He's going to maybe get sped up and rush his decisions. And that's what happened. And so, in previous years, they might have tried that, and they might have just been physically stopped, more often than they were the other day. So there was a physical mismatch that they really did a great job of exploiting. And schematically, it wasn't like the twists that they were doing were getting a defensive tackle wide open, but a lot of times you would see just really high level stuff like a defensive tackle or Andrew Van Ginkel just pushing offensive linemen out of the way so that another like another linebacker could come behind them and get a free run on Jared Goff. And so you were seeing a lot of that. So there was some scheme involved, but I really think that just from a physical and execution standpoint, they exploited some mismatches extensively.
Lots of good texts coming in, including this one. The Lions had at least 3 linemen get injured. Why is no one talking about that? We certainly talk about it when it comes to the Vikings offensive line.
Yeah, and I mentioned it that's that Frank Ragnow retiring, and they've had some injuries in the front. And I know what he's saying. Like your texter is saying that it hasn't been a large part of the conversation even heading into the game, and should knuckleheads like me have realized that they were a little less, right. They were more vulnerable than what they had been in the past.
Well, part of it, far be it for me to be Danny Downer. I was very positive on the victory yesterday, and I'll continue to try to be. But there's a part of me that says,
what a courageous effort on your part.
For me, it is. Yeah. It's incredibly courageous. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's hard to do for me. I want to be able to sleep at night.
I know. Yeah, you got to be you.
Yeah. So no, but there is a piece of this that says, well, you can't lose to the Lions forever. I mean, at some point, football being the game, pro football being the game it is, you're going to have one team rise up some, and the other team is going to maybe go a little bit the other direction, because had we lost 4 in a row or 5? It was 5.
Yeah.
And it would have been 6 most all time if we'd lost again. That you're not going to, I mean, realistically speaking, the football gods are not, I don't think, going to say that they're going to say you're kind of obligated occasionally to show enough resistance to actually win the game against the Lions.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was talking to somebody beforehand how things just always turn. There were so many years, and you were with us for some of these games, that you go to Detroit and you're like, this place is dead. The team is awful. The Vikings aren't that good, and they're still going to win. And sure enough, they did. And then it turned to where the Lions got more competitive. But you're not. The longer you go, the more you realize that eventually, that there's something is going to turn. And that's why the league is structured the way it is. It's very hard to maintain dominance over somebody for an extended period of time.
Since they didn't make a trade, would the Vikings be interested in Asante Samuel Jr. as he has now been medically cleared?
A lot of people are asking about that. There's a lot of off-season rumors about it. I can't rule it out because no one's told me absolutely positively no, but I'm not aware of any imminent movement there.
Okay. You can't give us even a morsel. Well, I don't even think we'd be at the top of the list anyway, would we? I looked at your ESPN odds makers, whatever one of those fancy shows you have about, we're not even among the top 5 teams favored to get to to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So we can pat ourselves on the back about it was a great game, and it was. It was a game they absolutely needed to sort of open the door to the possibility that the season could be saved. But around the league, you're going to have to do it a couple more times in a row. Probably if you host and beat the Ravens. Yeah. You're going to probably start getting a little more elevation here, but we're not even in the top 5 or 6.
No, and I get it because and we talked about their remaining schedule, but it's largely because the division is so good. So if they beat the Ravens, then they have to host. It's the Bears next, and then they have to go to Green Bay and win that game.
The Bears are about to go to 6 and 3.
Yeah,
they're hosting the Giants.
The Bears are finding ways to win,
and they're not that good.
They're very defensive about people saying that.
Yeah,
though. I guess the head coach was very upset with was it Troy Aikman for some criticism that he gave during a game. Like, you're not allowed to criticize apparently. And
well, he was right about what he said about Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams still is not an accurate enough quarterback.
Yeah, and I think the coach was saying that we're not going to make excuses for how we win or something.
And that's smart. He's got to do what he's got to do. He's got to build him up a little bit, right? But they've been pounded into the submission.
The point is, and then I think Seattle's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
Like, there's just, it's a very, very, there's all good teams, all the teams that they are going to have to compete for that spot. They're already behind. And so I get why they would not be in that top 5.
So is it what we see in the division is a lot of teams with everybody's got a winning record, right? No, we're 500. Yeah, we have a chance to go back above, but nobody with a losing record.
Right.
The question is, I'm not sure. I guess I still lean a little bit Lions, but I'm not sure any of these teams are what I would classify as great. I don't know. I mean, because the Packers are showing some flaws.
Yeah.
The Lions are up and down a little bit. I don't know.
It's such a week-to-week league. Like, literally going into last week, I was thinking, well, part of the reason the Vikings, outlook is so rough is that they might have two of the two best teams in the league in their division, in Detroit and Green Bay, and then the Vikings beat Detroit, and Green Bay loses at home to the Panthers. They are. It's from top to bottom. It's as competitive division as there is in the league, and all four teams should have playoff expectations right now. And it's very rare that when four teams beat up on each other the way NFC North teams are probably going to beat up on each other the rest of the way, that enough teams emerge with a good enough record to all qualify for the playoffs.
You seem reticent. You seem to hesitate to give the kid quarterback his due after this game. Everything you're doing at least today is linking to ESPN quarterback experts who basically are this particular individual is throwing all kinds of cold water on the JJ performance. What do we? Is this shock jocking, or what do we make of this?
I think the best kind of description that I've heard, and it's from Dominic Foxworth, who was on Get Up yesterday morning about JJ McCarthy, is that he has shown an ability to make loud plays, and I like the way he put it, loud, because it's another way of saying, like, the plays he makes have huge impacts on the outcome of games. So if there's 60, I think they had about 60 plays, and we all
which is a lot for us this year.
Yeah. And so we walk away from 60 plays, and everybody's thinking, oh, what a great throw to Jalen Naylor. What a great, run that he made for a touchdown. What a nice pass that Justin Jefferson gave him a chance, gave TJ Hockenson a chance. That's 3 or 4 plays. What about the other 55
in the middle of the game?
The other 55 were very mixed, and it's not an insult to a quarterback making his third start of his career at age 22 to say that there was a lot of plays left on the field and a lot of things that if he were a fifth-year quarterback, you would think he would, and still, starting in the NFL, you would think that he would hit. And so that's really, like, I'm just not going to jump into the myth-making and the demagoguing of, as if this was college football. And I think that happens a lot in college, and independent of the individual's, performance. And I think there's been a lot of promising things from him in the 2 wins that they've had. And we've seen the moxie and the competitiveness that absolutely have played a role in them winning those 2 games. They're not to be downplayed, but, I think everybody would be well served to view it with clear eyes and not to be, I know the NFL made him the NFC Offensive Player of the Week after that first week, and I think that just kind of fed into a little bit that you can celebrate the good stuff, but you can't have a fair discussion about the rest.
Here's what he writes.
This is Ben Solak, correct?
Is that his name?
ESPN.
The quarterback whisperer. Yep. Well, I don't know. What do we call him? He's
an analyst.
Analyst. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But he doesn't specialize in analyzing quarterbacks?
I don't think so.
Okay. Though early returns are highly worrisome, we're 10 starts from establishing a firm opinion on the young passer and another 17 after that from writing that opinion in pen, not pencil. But he goes on to write, this is a game to cast aside our quarterback obsession and see the forest for the trees. I ranked the Vikings coaching staff the best in football this offseason, and this game's a tremendous example. Flores and O'Connell outcoached their counterparts on the Detroit sidelines in highly adverse circumstances. To make McCarthy the story of this game is to totally erase the spectacular efforts of many Vikings, coaches and players. I simply won't have it. I simply won't have it, Kevin Seifert.
By God.
Just saying.
Yeah. No, and
they call me negative.
And you can read that as a rip on McCarthy, and it is.
Well, yeah,
but
it is.
But it's also, I think,
highly worrisome.
And I'm going to write about this later in the week. Like, the whole theory of the case of the Vikings in 2025 is that they would build a good enough team around a quarterback to support him developing in real time and still be a competitive winning team. And so what he's referring to is really the emergence for the first time, for the most prominent time, at least this year, of all those supporting things that they had, whether it was elite receivers who can turn imperfect passes into catches and big plays, or coaches who will eventually, find ways to exploit, as we talked about with Brian Flores and Kevin O'Connell, find ways to I don't want to say dial back, but to call the plays that JJ can execute in the key spots. And that's not as easy. It takes time to figure out what he can and can't do. Whether it's getting the four, offensive linemen of the five that they hope to start all together and playing well, whether it's, getting Andrew Van Ginkel back and showing and having just an elite playmaker and play creator for other people, on the field. And so I think that's just as important to the success. And that we talk about the playoff race as it is. The quarterback's the most important position, and we can't, there has to be a floor of performance, but the theory of the case for this team is that all the other things around him would be the reasons that they would win games.
And that's what it felt like finally in this game.
And we forgot to mention
special teams.
Special teams.
Yes.
I almost left that out. Not just the block, but the continued ability of Miles Price to give them field position and occasionally
what school does he go to? Or did he go to?
For a while. Indiana, he was there.
Indiana University, yeah.
I think he was at a few other schools too. But,
don't
I don't know where he picked up his elite returning
there's no
abilities.
rules anymore about how many schools you go to. Lord knows.
If you stayed at a school the whole time, that's
news.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Kevin Seifert in studio. Let's get a pause in. Much more to get to with him. Top 5 yet to come, and also Louis in the 5 o'clock hour.
Time now for the Vikings Report on the Fan, presented by Miller Lite. Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen joins Dan Barreiro next.
Join Meat Sauce Lucky this Sunday for a Vikings watch party unlike any other at the all-new Hop House in Mystic Lake Casino. Don't miss out on the action giant wall TV displays. You can enjoy the best seats, food, beverages, trivia, and prize giveaways all game long, hosted by Meat Sauce. Party kicks off at noon. Get all the details, KFAN.com. Keep your calendar.
I'm mad at myself because I had a specific league. Might have been, was it a rules question?
Horse collar?
No, it wasn't that.
The hip drop?
No, so somebody just got suspended?
Somebody got from the Washington, the first guy to get suspended for a third hip drop tackle violation.
So 3 strikes and you're out.
Apparently so. They had fined him the first 2 times, and then they suspended him.
How long
this
is
time.
the suspension?
1 game.
Oh, it's just 1 game.
Frankie Luvo.
Okay.
It's
frustrating.
Yeah, and the one that was a third, like a lot of even your guy Lieber was questioning whether it was actually a hip drop or not. You watch it, and there's no tangled bodies or anything that you would be concerned about, but the problem with this hip drop tackle is it has hurt a lot of people, but it's very difficult. It was very difficult for the NFL to write a rule, define it, and write a rule that could be enforced consistently. And so they came up with this rule that basically 3 elements, it's almost like the catch rule again, but it's like 3 elements where if you grab a player and then you unweight yourself, which I've never heard that word before, but basically you take your feet leave the ground because you're jumping up to try to use that force to pull the player down, and then you swivel to twist him to the ground and then land on his feet, and that's sort of the mechanism that often causes the injury. And he did all those 3 things. The receiver was Jackson Smith Nagib, we'll call him JSN, from Seattle. It wasn't injured or anything, but it was still the mechanism. And so, it's just, to me, it's just like, it's a tackling technique that sort of emerged from the time when they were really focusing on not hitting people in the head and neck area. And so people were like, well, how am I supposed to tackle? Well, here's a way. I'll grab them by the shoulders and I'll twist them down that way. And that has caused high ankle sprains and broken legs and everything else. And so they're trying to legislate that out as well.
The roughing the passer penalty, I thought was a joke.
Oh, yeah, I guess
it was defended on the air.
They were landing. It was for landing the body weight thing.
But I thought the bit was land and seem to add extra force on your way down. I didn't think he did any of that. I'd say, what are we doing?
In theory, it's supposed to be if you don't make
go to the side.
If you don't make an attempt to go to the side, and some people thought that he did. Yeah, it's like it's quite a. I mean, these guys are elite athletes, but it's a lot to ask. This was a linebacker, but it's a lot to ask anyone while you're in midair to avoid landing on top of the person you just hit. And so then it becomes a judgment call as to whether the effort was good enough.
We can officially say, right? We can officially. Was that yours? Trade?
Nope. Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. It sounds good. It sounds like, you're on top of things. You got all these calls and sources coming in.
How old school I am, and I have the old school ringer as my ringer.
Don't ever feel you have to apologize for that ring.
Yeah.
Because I've been mocked for occasionally using that ring. I'm like, bleep you if you don't understand it. It's not my problem. It doesn't mean we're like, it's just, what are you going back to 1680? No, it's just, it's a comforting ring.
It's what tells me that it's time to actually talk to somebody on the phone
that tough to do.
Opposed to texting or emailing or what have you.
The change in the kickoff rule is a smashing success. We can now say it officially, can we not?
Take two, yeah. Last year, not so much, but this year, yes.
Big time. Yeah. Well, because they did what I said they had to do. You have to make the penalty if you don't kick in the right place harsher. So you have to say, well, if you just kick it in the end zone, 35-yard line.
Yeah. And
that's what to me what's changed.
And amazingly, the 5 yards was all the difference,
that's all
because last year when people did kick a returnable kick, they were getting it to like the 28.8 yard line on average, and then if you just kicked the touchback, it'd be at the 30. So nobody wanted to risk all the things you risk by trying to cover a kick to get and all you lose is 1.2 yards. But this year, if it would go to you lose 7+ yards, and that was enough for coaches to turn the corner on it. And so the big thing though will be, because there's been such an increase in returns, what will the injury and concussion numbers be? They'll be bigger in gross numbers because there's been more returns. But if the key to this is that the rate of concussions per play has to be pretty close to what it is for a normal offensive or defensive play, or the whole effort is moot. And so, we usually don't get a great indication about health data until the end of the year. So we'll see where that is. But that would be the one thing that might stop it, in its tracks, is if, and the kickoff forever, is if by getting to the point where they are now getting returns, we're right back where we were in 2009 or 10 when this whole thing kind of started, and that there'd be too many concussions on returns because of the violent nature of the hits. And so we'll see. Hopefully the case is that it's the same rate, and we'll just keep doing it this way.
Have I read somewhere, maybe written by you or somebody else, that part of what is, I guess, the impetus of suddenly a 68-yard field goal is possible, 50-yard field goals are routine, is that we are using different kicking balls that travel better? Is that part of the conspiracy, or has that not been confirmed?
No, they're not using different kicking balls. It reminds me of baseball, where every year there's more home runs. The ball is juiced.
Yeah.
So
the football isn't juiced?
They've always used a different ball for kicking, and they used to have really strict rules for how much you could condition those balls, I guess. And so, and it was
like a pitcher softening up the baseball.
Yeah. And so it became like there was only so much time you were allowed to do it. And so it sort of limited the distance that the ball would go. And then this year they had kind of it went under the radar. I didn't even really catch it. But they basically said, this is too hard to try to, condition this set of balls and then not condition the other set of balls, and it's really stressful for the equipment managers who have to do it in this little really short window before the game starts. And so they said, okay, it's fine, you can spend more time, you don't have to do it in this strict thing. And so the balls are more conditioned now. And so what the theory, Vic Fangio kind of mentioned it, the Eagles defensive coordinator, is that because they're better conditioned, it's going further, and you might have up to some kickers, I guess, have said they think there's more 10+ yards of distance that have been pumped into these balls as a result of the ability to condition them for over a longer period of time. And so that explains why almost 60-yard field goals aren't that unusual anymore. And then Jacksonville guy Cam Little hits a 70-yarder the other day. And so if that is in fact the case, they have always been very sensitive in special teams, especially about having plays that are too easy or too, in the case of the kickoff, too dead. So should they eventually, should this trend continue and the percentage of field goal, makes continue to be longer, I wonder if they'll reverse that rule or they'll come up with some other way to make it more difficult to hit 60, 70-yard field goals. So you're in scoring position when you cross midfield now.
Literally.
Yeah.
Should we be as big an underdog from a point spread standpoint as we are against the Baltimore Ravens? Does that say, again, that's the way these odds makers work to get action? Is that still a lack of appreciation that they buy that the Vikings are really back in any kind of meaningful way? Is it just, homage to Lamar? I mean, that's a pretty big spread.
Yeah. Where is it at now?
I think it's 7, isn't it? Will you look up the Vikings Ravens spread? I think it's 6.5 or 7.
Yeah. I think there's a feeling, and who knows what.
That might be a little high. What do you got?
I've got the Ravens favored by 3.5.
Well, I thought it was a little high. 3.5. Okay.
Well,
either way, as high as 4.5.
Okay, to 4.5.
So if they were playing in Baltimore, it would be 7.
It would be 7 or 8.
And so I think there's a sense, at least I don't know about how the bookies make the actual spreads per se, but there's a feeling around the league at least that now that Lamar Jackson's back, this is much closer to the team that people expected it to be. And we talked about this at the top of the segment, but as bad as their record was at 1-5 and still is at 3-5, that this is a really good team.
That one I'm not going to read. You got to get Seifert to do more Sid impressions. We love it. And lastly, we're a little late, but we'll make it work. This is from just a while ago. Hold on. No, that one's not worth the time. That was a meat sauce comment. No, that's not it. Where did it go? Come on. I want to read it as is because it's a little bit more dramatic. Preseason, it changed.
Well, there's so much.
Here it is.
Okay.
Wentz had 300-plus yard passing games, and you all trashed him. But we get 147 from J-Mac, and you guys all get aroused. So what do you think? That's ironic because I'm the guy who was accused of being too positive about Wentz. Now apparently I was ripping Wentz, but I digress. Anyway.
The first 300-yard game was Pittsburgh when they were trying to come back from the deficit, and the other one was probably Philadelphia also when they're trying to come back from a deficit, or maybe not the Philadelphia game. He had 2 of them, but
right.
The two interesting thing is in 3 games, I think McCarthy has 440 passing yards, and he had a 31-yard pass to Aaron Jones that initially it looked like a swing, your basic swing pass. I guess he caught it behind the line of scrimmage. No, he didn't.
I thought he brought it up.
JJ? O'Connell.
I'm sorry, O'Connell brought it up.
O'Connell brought it up with PA yesterday and said he looked at it very closely because it would have been 170 passing yards. And so I don't think that they're really all that concerned about it. But I did mention to somebody, and it'll be interesting, when is he going to have his first kind of big, what would be the circumstances of his first big kind of statistical game? And I don't think they're eager to get it, especially the way they've approached it the first 3 games. I don't think that they're eager to get him to 300 yards in a game that they're winning all along. It'll probably end up being a game that they're trailing and they'll have to pass a lot, but it's pretty clear that they, I know you haven't even mentioned it, but it's pretty clear that when JJ's out there, they're running the ball a lot more on first down and sometimes even second down.
Except for when they had a chance to ice the game.
Well, that's where the instincts come out. And so I did ask about the third down. People were mad at us after the game for not challenging O'Connell.
I got text on this today.
I'm sure you did. I mean, we didn't challenge O'Connell on his game management. So I did ask him about the third down play on the goal line, which was the JJ rollout. And I think it was like a one receiver route play with TJ Hawkinson out there, and he was covered and it was messy. And I think maybe, I don't know if it's too much to ask, but you would have wanted him to at least not go out of bounds there.
Correct.
But it was not a straight, it wasn't a straight quarterback boot either, and so he didn't really have time to get speed run. Like by the time he realized there was no one to throw to, you're not going to score.
You don't put him in that position, I don't think, because it's a hard play.
Yeah, but so that's the way O'Connell explained it, that he wanted to give him a pass run option, and it just got defended.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in. Sure. Good to see you. Ravens next week, home game, so you don't have to worry about travel.
Yeah.
So your next travel date's a 2-game road trip, Green Bay and Seattle?
Well, yeah, they have Chicago will be the week
here.
Yeah, here, and then there'll be Green Bay, and then
Seattle after that.
Yeah, and then home.
Good luck against Darnold.
Well, I mean, and they just traded for Rashee Rice from the or not Rashee Rice, blanking on his name, the New Orleans receiver.
They did.
It's very fast, and so
Seattle did.
Yeah, so they added another weapon into their arsenal.
Yeah, we're the only team that didn't do anything aggressive. Just saying.
They got all their healthy.
Hold their feet to the fire.
They got all their injured players back. So.
All right, we got to go.
Okay.
Thanks, Seifert. Appreciate you. ESPN.com. Mini top 5 at 5. Are you ready for it?
NFL trade deadline recap, and we'll talk about what's coming up next on the Fan.